was playing a libero position, which means I'm flipping and sliding around town. That's just a part of the game. And I was like, oh, my back kind of hurts. No, nothing too serious. Go home. For the next 2 nights, I had a pulsing leg. Could not sleep, would not sleep more than 40 minutes. And then 2 nights later, I woke up at 3 a.m. to go pee. Got out of bed, immediately fell down. My ankle gave out, and I felt nothing from knee downwards.
On this episode of Bed, Back, and Beyond, we are joined by Brittany. Brittany is a fellow member of the microdiscectomy subreddit, and she is here to share her very positive recovery from her microdiscectomy that was just 5 months ago. Before we get into the show, I just want to give a big thank you to my listeners who reach out to say that they are so encouraged by the show. And to my listener in Clarksville, Tennessee, I'm so glad that Loretta's marathon running episode was encouraging to you. That is my hope for this show. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe and share the podcast with friends.
Welcome to Bed, Back, and Beyond, sharing positive stories of recovery from serious back or neck injury. Your host is CK, a fellow champion who draws on her own experience with herniated disc surgery. Join her as she talks with others who have overcome the physical and emotional trauma of a painful injury, and discover for yourself how you can find hope and encouragement in recovery.
Hi, Brittany. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Bed, Back, and Beyond. Before we dive into your injury, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Brittany, and I'm actually from New York, but I went to school in the Northeast, and then I came down to Philly, where I am now.
Wait a second.
And
You're in Philadelphia?
yeah,
We should have done this in person.
are you in Philly?
I'm above Philly. I'm near Pottstown.
Oh my God, my boyfriend is actually from Media,
Oh,
which is
stop it, really?
Delco. Yeah,
Delco all the way.
I love Delco. So expensive.
Welcome. I know.
But yeah,
Sorry to interrupt.
no worries. That's so cool to see. I was a science major in college, and I was always, I was always an active person, and I still am. I was playing volleyball 4 times a week. I was going on super long walks. Like I would bring my parents for a walk, and they'd be like, give me a second. And also just because like walking around the cobblestones of Philly can get very
Yeah.
rough in like the Old City area,
Yeah.
which is like that's a beautiful part of the area. Like it's gorgeous. But I'm pretty like active. I never had an inkling to really stay down. I love to travel. I was like, I've gone to Asia, I've gone to Europe, I've done Australia. The only place I haven't hit right now is Africa, South America, and Antarctica.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's traveling that I'm jealous of.
It's also easy because like I have 2 cats, and it's not like a dog
Oh,
where you have to take them out like every, twice a day. So
yeah.
they're chill. They got a litter robot. They got automatic food, automatic water, automatic toilet. I don't know what else they need.
My dogs are the reason for my surgery. They pulled me backwards on a walk.
Is that really what caused yours?
Yep. Yeah.
It's the
So,
smallest things.
yeah. So when did you start having some back problems?
I've had back issues since high school, but in high school, like you're a kid, so you're down for a week and you're back and at it, and you move on. But as a kid, they also dismiss you a little bit more. They say like, "Oh, you probably played a little bit too hard at gym class. Take it easy." They don't prescribe you a steroid pack as a kid, so you're just off doing it on your own. And I never really paid any attention to it. My parents just thought, she's a kid, let it go. When I got to college, there would be times where I would need to put an ice pack on my leg all night to even get sleep. I couldn't sit in class, which, as a college student pre-COVID, that was a problem. You have to be able to sit, in lectures and all that. And then when I got to, like in my mid 20s, I was just playing volleyball left and right. I just doing intermediate and recreational with my friends. And I took one nasty fall, and that was it.
Oh,
Yeah.
and when was
And
that?
yeah, and that was actually in February, late February. And I've had on and off, the herniated disc where, you feel like you have to go to the side, you can't sleep correctly, but that would go away in like a week or so. But this one, and it was late February, played a game, fell down. I was playing a libero position, which means I'm slipping and sliding around town. That's just a part of the game. And I was like, oh, my back kind of hurts. No, nothing too serious. Go home. For the next 2 nights, I had a pulsing leg. Could not sleep, would not sleep more than 40 minutes. And then 2 nights later, I woke up at 3 a.m. to go pee. Got out of bed, immediately fell down. My ankle gave out, and I felt nothing from knee downwards. So, you're panicking, of course. I lived in a 3-story row home in Philly. My roommates were all gone for the weekend. My boyfriend, who lived in Delco, God bless him, was sleeping. And I called him and I was like, I can't feel from knee down. Like, I don't know what to do. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, we got to bring you to the ER. There's nothing you can do. So he's driving all the way from Delco, which isn't far. It's like a 30-minute drive, but it's 3 a.m., by the way.
So less traffic getting into Philly at
Less
least.
traffic,
Yeah.
less traffic. So he gets there, he gets to my apartment. Luckily, he has a key to go up,
Mhm.
and we were able to hobble down and then get in the car to go to the ER. And the first ER, also, Philly is very understaffed in the
Mhm.
medical world.
Yeah.
So the first ER we went to, the wait time was 10 hours. And that was already me telling them, I think this is nerve damage.
Yeah.
This could be neuro. And usually when you say that, they tend to, they tend to let you in a little bit quicker. And they said, it's still going to be 10 hours.
Oh
And I
my
was like,
goodness.
we can't do this. So we went to another ER, and immediately they were like, this is a concern. We got to get you in. And that started the whole process that is now my life. But I was 25 when this happened. It was a week and a half before my birthday.
Oh, geez.
And then I did my first ever MRI.
Uh-huh.
Not fun. It's not like a doctor's office where they give you music. No, you're
Yeah.
just in a metal tube with a banging
I
noise. No
panicked.
music.
They had to pull me out and give me a
Oh,
second
yeah.
and put me back
They
in.
gave me Ativan.
Oh,
They were like, this girl cannot do it. So we're in the ER for 12 hours, and we're doing MRIs, and then we have multiple disciplines of doctors coming in. I think I had ortho, neuro, we had neuro orthopedic, we had pretty much everything under the sun. They ask you, have you traveled internationally, because they didn't know if there was like some type of bacteria. They ask about your family history. They do all these blood tests, and you're getting pricked left and right. I'm anemic, by the way, which means I'm a very hard prick. So you're getting multiple times for this poor woman to try to get my vein. And we're sitting in a hospital room, and we're watching The Price is Right on TV. And funny enough, I was telling my boyfriend, I was like, haha, you can, like, I was like, flick my foot. I can't feel it. trying to make a joke about the situation. But then one of the emergency medicine doctors came in and said I had drop foot, and that I was getting referred to ortho surgery to see if I would do an emergency MD right then and there. But due to my age, since I was 25, they wanted to wait a little bit because you're so young. They didn't want to go into your spine at that age. They don't want to go into anyone's spine if it's not necessary. And the ortho, whoever is like I think it's like the fellow or something, or the chief resident, said no to the surgery and to referred me to a orthopedic practice in Philly, and we went from there. But they said that you're so young. Let's try to give yourself a couple weeks just for the fragment to reabsorb. My MRI report said it was 1.1 centimeters, which is already pretty freaking big. Yeah. So after that, I started going to this orthopedic surgeon who's fantastic. He's one of the top in the nation for the surgery. He does a million of these, and he's just so great. And he was telling me, you're so young, we didn't want to go in so early. Let's give it 4 weeks.
Did they make you do physical therapy for 4 weeks?
No, they said try
Oh.
to like rest. Here's the prednisone
Oh,
pack. Rest and see if your body will reabsorb it because they didn't want PT to and somehow inflame it even more.
okay.
So stayed down for 4 weeks, did 2 weekly checkups, kept going every 2 weeks, just like we could keep going, and it just never got better. The prednisone helped a little bit, but
Took a
the
little
foot
bit of the
was
pain away.
the foot was coming up at an angle. It wasn't coming up straight up. It was like this, which isn't good. It's showing that
Right.
your inversion and your eversion is bad.
Was there ever any pain, or was it all just
I
always
only
just
had pain
numb?
for the 2 nights before. Then it went
Okay.
completely numb.
Completely, this is the first I've heard someone say they had complete numbness from a herniated
Right. So
disc.
that's why with the drop foot, it's not a common thing. It's not in itself an issue. It's a symptom. And the
Mhm.
primary issue is a herniated disc.
Yeah.
So you had the back pain, but then I went numb. That's why when people in the sub are saying, "Oh, like if you reherniate, you're gonna feel the pain." I was like, I never really had pain. I'm
Yeah.
like, am I reherniating?
Yeah. Holy cow, you're pretty, I mean, that's lucky in a way because, the pain, well, you had it the 2 nights
I've had
before.
it. I've
It's
had
yeah,
I've had the herniated disc pain before where I couldn't stand up straight or I would
yeah,
have to stand at an angle. But for this specific instance, I
yeah,
only had pain for 2 days before, and then I
okay.
went numb,
So
which I
you
don't know
you
which is worse.
you said you've had the herniated disc in the past. Did you have an MRI in the past to say you've
I
had
was
a her you
so
just
young that they
yeah,
were like, just sleep it off, give
right,
it a couple
okay,
weeks. But when I would go to the doctor, they would say like, oh, it's probably a herniated disc.
okay,
Just chill out.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So the doctor told you to wait 4 weeks.
Yep. And then it never got better. The numbness went away a little bit. Like at one point, it was just completely numb from knee downwards. After the 10 days of prednisone, I was able to feel the pinky toe and the fourth toe. Like there was more sensation, but at the end of the day, there was no function coming back. And the longer you wait with nerve damage, the higher the risk that it doesn't come back. So got to the point where, all right, let's go in for the surgery. Also, being on the younger side, I knew nothing about health insurance. I lucked out where my employer had very good insurance, so I truly did not have to pay out my butt. But I know other people don't have that luxury that I do. And we had a surgery on April Fools. It was so funny, but it went so well. I went in, my surgery was slated for 8 o'clock. I was out by 10:30, 11. Yeah. You had to go in early at 3 a.m. to do the check-in, but the actual surgery was so quick and easy.
Wow, and so somebody just drove your boyfriend drive you home to
Yeah.
Philly, or did you
Yeah.
okay.
And actually, very funny story. After the surgery, I was so hungry. I was like, can we go somewhere to eat? And because I was feeling good, we went to a restaurant and we had food.
What?
I was so hungry.
Wait, which
I was
Philly restaurant did you go to?
We went to Ocean Harbor, which is a dim sum place, I
Oh,
believe on
okay,
Ray Street. And I was like,
okay.
I'm so hungry. You don't understand. I'm starving. I couldn't eat for 12 hours before this.
That's hilarious. Dim sum is so
Yeah.
delicious. I don't blame
And it
you.
was just like my dad came down to visit me, so he's sitting there too. It was like having a family meal, but no one would have noticed that this girl just had spine surgery.
Oh my goodness. You're making it sound like it's the easiest thing in the world.
I truly lucked out with mine. I know many people have complications, and even though it is one of the like supposedly easier surgeries, that a nerve is just so out of the world that anything could happen. I've heard of people that they wake up and they still have the pain. So before my surgery, I had the sciatica pain. You know when you pushed on your toes and you feel the
Yeah.
tingles and the pricks and needles? I had that before, but post surgery it was completely gone. So I was like, I'm ready to go get some food. Da, 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 da.
So I threw up like crazy when I woke up from the surgery.
Oh, do you not react well to
I
anesthesia?
guess not. That was my first major surgery, so I threw
So
up like
I've
crazy.
I had like a tonsillectomy and adenoidectomy when
Okay.
I was like in my like teenage years. And
Yeah.
I remember saying, I was like, anesthesia is the best sleep I have ever had in my life. When
Yep.
I had my wisdom teeth out, they asked you, do you want local or general? I was like, general,
General.
knock me out. Don't want to be alive for that.
Oh, too funny. But, so I had to stay in the hospital for 3 nights, flat on
Oh,
my
did
back.
you?
So I didn't get to go home. So I wasn't eating dim sum. The only thing I was allowed to eat was bone broth for the first, like, 24 hours. And it was so gross.
Yeah, they discharged me. They're like, go home, go home and rest. So that's
Okay.
exactly what we did. We got food, went home, and I pretty much was down for like a couple weeks.
Okay. And how was your incisional pain? Do you remember?
So I, as a woman, I was like, is my scar going to be very big? And the doctor was like, it shouldn't be, but we don't know until we get in. So you're supposed to do the partial laminectomy. Mine was a full laminectomy because although my MRI reports at 1.1 centimeters, it was 2.4 centimeters, which is, according to my doctor, it was huge. It, especially at my age, that was just the crazy part. It didn't hurt, it was sore. Like, to be honest, it should be sore. You just got stabbed. But the itchiness is what got me. And the not being able to shower is also an issue. For me, they put the bandage over and they say wait 72 hours. I don't know about you, but my stitches were not dissolvable.
No,
So
I had to get my stitches out too.
right. So I had to go back in after 3-ish weeks to get mine out, but it was so itchy. And
Mhm.
I now have, it looks like a little caterpillar at like right above that, like on that area. It looks like a little caterpillar that's like
Yeah.
lined and has all the dots around it.
Yeah, if you go onto my Reddit profile and you search my comment history, I just
Yeah.
recently posted a picture of my scar.
Oh, did
And
you? I need
yeah,
to see that.
my scar is 5 years old now. It's white, but it's got
Hmm.
like the ladder looking to it.
I made my boyfriend from starting from day one. For the first 2 weeks, we took pictures of it every day just to see. I was like, you know what, might as well look back on it in a year and see how it is. And then we just took a picture yesterday and it's still, the purpley red,
Uh-huh.
but there's no itchiness. I don't have that. Back then the where this cut was, it was raised because they're stitching that part together. That's
Yeah.
not there anymore. So
Yeah.
just time helps it.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think 20 millimeters. You might be the biggest herniated disc person I've interviewed then.
It even he was like, this is just, I think he, as a person, he's also a professor. He was saying like, "Wow, can I show my students this? Can I show the residents?" I'm like, "Sure, go for it. Why not? It doesn't matter to me."
Did he show you a picture of the
He
disc or
sent
anything?
a picture of it to me, and I was like, "That is actually disgusting."
My doctor didn't do that, and I'm quite jealous of
So mine was
he
at the
didn't see mine.
L4, L5, but
I
it
was gonna
was
ask. Yeah.
going down, touching
Okay.
the L5 S1 area, which is
Yeah.
what is causing this drop foot.
Yeah. I was
So
L5 S1.
yeah, I also have a small one on the L5 S1, but it's so small that it's not really touching anything. And my surgeon basically said, I'm not going to touch that area because if there's no need to, let it reabsorb on its own. I also really love my surgeon because he's not very, ready to go in. Like I was young, I was scared. I didn't want someone to be like, go in right away and like, snip, snip. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah. And what were your restrictions immediately after surgery?
Oh, the no BLT
Mhm.
for minimum, I believe it was 4 to 6 weeks, but to
Okay.
this day I still log roll into bed.
Yeah.
I'm just used to it.
I do 5 years
Um,
later.
yeah, like I'm just like I'm not risking it. But pretty much like no bending, all the pretty much standard things. I don't like. I know for a lot of people they think it's to not herniate, but it's more for your incision so that it doesn't pop open or stuff like that. And I had the pretty much standard thing that everyone else did. With the pain medicine that they prescribed me, I actually didn't feel the need to take them. I only took it for the first day when I woke up and I was like, all right, this does kind of hurt. But after that, there was no pain. I didn't really have any. So I lucked out in that field.
That is, yeah. And how about physical therapy? Did they prescribe that for you?
Oh yeah, we went in hard with PT.
Oh, yeah?
I started at 6 weeks.
Okay.
I was prescribed at 4 weeks to go to PT, but
Mhm.
I was like, we went to a beach vacation to relax. I was like, I'll start this after. I don't want to be sore from my
Priorities. Where did you go? Which beach? That's the question.
Cape May.
Cape May. That's right. You got to
Yeah,
go down the shore.
it's beautiful, and that's such
Yeah,
a Philly thing to say. It's
I
like
know.
it's so Philly. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'll come back. And so I came back to PT, and in the beginning, I would do one session. I would have to go home and pass out. I was like, I'm so tired of this. And, I have to do a lot of balancing and strengthening because I went numb. So with drop foot, if you look on the subreddit, half of the people, they wake up and their foot is completely back. It's great. Things are fantastic. I was not one of that. I still had it, but it was stronger. I can already tell that there was strength back, but I wasn't able to have function back. So back then I had so much pain the moment I woke up and stepped on my foot. I know that's like plantar fasciitis, but it was just such a weak muscle because it wasn't really used. And then I couldn't stand on my tippy toes with the left leg. It would hurt so much. But the moment I came out of surgery, my boyfriend said, "You were drugged up, but the first thing you tried was to stand on your tippy toes." And I was like, my subconscious knew. But, I tried it and it worked. So I was already happy with what came out. And to myself, I was telling myself, it can only go up. Okay, it can go down, don't get me wrong, but if you follow instructions, it should go up, which it is, slowly but surely.
And so, how has your recovery been? Pretty smooth, or would you say there's been some ups and downs?
I think everyone is going to have some up and down.
Mhm.
The most common thing you see in the sub is, did I reherniate?
Oh, I know.
Reherniation versus flare up. And
Oh, I know.
I, in the first couple weeks, you're getting up as much as possible to walk. So I would walk like every hour or so, try to walk around the apartment complex,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And it sometimes if I walked a little too fast, you're tired, you start breathing heavily.
Yeah.
But I noticed day by day that I could walk more and more.
Mhm.
Um, I did have a couple of setbacks. So the first one was, when you're on the table at the doctor's office and you get off, I incorrectly landed on my foot. So I pushed too hard on it and my foot stopped going up like this. It would start going like this again. So, immediate fear. You're like, did I herniate? Did I mess something up? I remember sobbing to my boyfriend. And, you gave it a couple days, almost a week, and it came back. And then, you go back to your normal healing. I would get, in the beginning, I would always feel on my foot the tingles, the hot tingle that almost felt like the nerves were moving on your foot. I found that very cool. My foot would also, the toes would be twitching. um, yeah, and I think that's something we see a lot with drop foot because many people can't feel anything at all. So the surgery should help you regain feeling and function. I wasn't able to sit for more than 30 minutes. Not even couldn't sit more than 20 minutes, but as the weeks go on, it gets stronger and stronger. You have to work on your core. And so relatively I had a good recovery. I just came down from a flare up that lasted 2 weeks. And that's, everyone's going to have a flare up, but it's so easy to catastrophize.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And that's what you're going to see in a sub. It's
Yeah.
like I feel this pain, but sometimes it's like what everyone says, the nerves are so inflamed.
Mhm.
They're just mean. They're mean to
Yeah.
you. So
Yeah.
I remember I was crying to my boyfriend. I was like, "Can you watch me and see me do my like PT exercise? And does it look like the same form? Stuff like that." And it went down. I didn't need a steroid pack, but I just chilled out. Didn't really like do too much extenuating exercise, and yeah, we're good to go. So I've only really had two bumps in the road, and I'm 5 months post-op, so not too bad. I know some people have really bad flare-ups. I actually met someone through the sub who got the surgery on the same day as me and also had drop foot. Her drop foot immediately went away the moment she woke up, but then she started going numb on the good side and got the saddle region numbness, which I luckily never had.
Yeah. But just part of her healing, right? It wasn't a
It's just part of her
reherniation.
healing.
Yeah.
No, it was just the scar tissue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so strange the things that we feel as our nerve is healing. It causes like spider feelings, or the opposite leg starts to hurt. The last thing we need when we're already mentally scared of everything.
I and it's so easy to scare yourself, especially when you're in this Reddit. I think this Reddit, our sub, is so good, but a lot of people in there are people who are in the acute stages.
Right.
They have just gone surgery or they're about to get surgery.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who have had the surgery, like you, who are 5 years out, they're not the moderator, so they're not in
Yeah.
here, constantly looking. A lot of them
Right.
are living their own life.
Yeah, they forget
They
about us and they move on.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why,
Yep.
like, me, I'm only 5 months post-op, but I try to come back just because, and I do. I'm always into sub because
Yeah. I see you
I
commenting.
understand. I understand what it's like to be so afraid.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Oh. So, what was I going to ask? You're 5 months post. Did you have to miss much work because of it?
Okay, I lucked out where I had a really great manager. She's had my surgery. She's
Oh,
had the
that's helpful.
microdiscectomy twice,
What?
and
Okay.
her partner has actually gone through a spinal fusion. I also work from home, which makes things slightly different,
Mhm.
but I realistically only took 3 days off.
Oh,
And my manager was like, just stay off, but save your sick days for whatever happens in the
what?
future. So
What?
I lucked out where I such a good manager.
Yeah, jeez. The rest of us could only dream about that.
I know. I've heard people like, I went back after 2 weeks
Oh.
to a physical job. I'm like,
Also, ask your managers if they'd like to share their story on my podcast.
yeah, I will actually.
So, I'm just so glad to hear you're doing amazing. Anything you would like to say to people who are currently in that just herniated their disc zone?
It's a bumpy and nerve-wracking, and frankly, it's an awful time. It's not a fun time. A herniated disc is painful. The loss of function is scary. The loss of feeling is terrifying. I think the best thing to do is to get a double opinion. Always research things. I know with some people with their anxiety, they cannot research things or it makes them more built up with it. But for me, I'm the type of person where I will research something to the end of the day, just so I rather go in prepared. Um, it's not easy, but it's so doable. I have a partner, so it made things a little bit different, but you can do it. Just give yourself so much grace. I think this type of injury is such a blaming injury. For you, you did it while walking your dog. I'm sure you probably had moments where you said, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have went a little bit later to do it. I should have waited for the dog to calm down." For me, it was a volleyball day. I've told myself, "Oh, I shouldn't have played that day. I should have taken it a little bit easy." It's such a blaming incident that it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. It can happen to anyone. It could happen to someone well in their 60s. It could happen to someone in their 20s. It's happened to people in their teens. My surgeon told me that he had to perform the surgery on a 17-year-old, and there's just no other way because it was too big for your body to reabsorb.
I was 41, I think. I was 40 or 41, and I kept saying, 20-year-olds get this surgery, so it's not just me for being old.
Exactly. And another good thing about this surgery is that it does so much but it's such an easy surgery. My
Hmm.
surgeon calls it ice fishing.
Ice
So
fish?
it's like, yeah, so he makes like the hole in the ice and he yanks it out.
Uh-huh.
That's like, hearing that made me feel really good.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing I would say is don't be afraid to ask for guidance. My surgeon's office had a direct line where we can leave voicemails to talk, if in case anything happened.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And I something felt funny. Ring, ring. I
Yeah.
was calling.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid because it's such a finicky recovery process. There are going to be days where I'm like, I can walk 5 miles around the city, and then there are days where you don't want to leave your apartment or home, and
Right.
that's okay. Like it's such an
Hmm.
up and down recovery, and
Hmm.
it takes time. I know for me, especially with nerve damage, it can take up to a year to see how
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
Another thing I would say is find a good PT and keep up with your PT.
Yeah.
I know it's so easy to just go to that one session on a Monday and then forget about it until the next Monday. But
Yeah.
the more you do it, the better it is.
Yeah.
Another thing that I would recommend is to keep a diary. I kept a diary. I was writing my symptoms every day. So part of my PT is to do single leg heel raises on my
Hmm.
bad foot. When I first got out of surgery, I was able to do 4. I'm at 20 now.
That's
So
great.
it's so nice to see the change.
Hmm. Well, and that's one of the things that I like to recommend when people are saying like the mental aspect is so hard is
It
to
is.
focus on the daily improvements.
It is. And sometimes like it's so hard to see. But if you ask me the difference between my 5 months versus 4 months versus 3, it's an extreme change. So at I want to say my 2 month. So my foot, when I had drop foot, I was not able to lift up any toe. You and the weirdest thing is when you try and you don't see anything. That's the weirdest feeling, and it's so demoralizing. But what I noticed at about 3 months is the second toe, the pointer toe, was starting to lift up. So what I started doing was I started filming it, and I would film it in the same position where I was sitting, and then I would see how much more it's starting to lift. And now at my 5 month, I am starting to lift my third toe, my middle one. So, and that wasn't happening before. So it's like it's slow, and it's like it's so crazy that a herniated disc can do this much damage. That's just so messed up in my
Yeah, and for
opinion.
such a short time too. You weren't
Exactly.
fully herniated very long. February
No,
to what did you say? March?
I
February
herniated
to
this in late February.
yeah,
Yeah, and then I got my surgery April 1st.
April 1st. Yeah.
And before that, in about November, about like the Thanksgiving time, I got like the herniated disc where I was like, oh, walking on my side, but that went away in a week.
Yeah.
So don't blame yourself because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, it's happened.
Mhm.
There's nothing you can do about it, sadly. Your body has
Mhm.
to do it.
Mhm.
And sometimes if your body needs a little help with a surgeon, go for it. There's a reason why they're so their education, one, costs $1 million,
Right.
and two, why they're in training for so long.
Yeah.
And
Now
I
do you
think the
have
sub is such a good community.
thank you for saying it's Reddit microdiscectomy just in case
Yep.
somebody's
R slash
listening.
microdiscectomy.
Do you have plans to get back into volleyball?
I do. I spoke about it with my PT, and before I started PT in May. When I tried to run in the beginning, and I shouldn't have, but I was running late for a train, it almost felt like it was like a step like this. That was how I was running. Now I'm actually able to jog in like a very good form. My left foot still drops a little bit more because drop foot, but it's actually not bad. And you will only really realize it, one, if you are the person, and two, if you are a clinician watching for this. So I was, jogging slowly in front of my boyfriend, and he was saying, "You look like anyone else running." And he ran track. So I'll take that as a compliment. So I do see myself going back. not yet because one, I just had a flare up, so not doing that. And two, I really want to build up my core strength before I go in. So I'm doing a lot of PT. Um, I know with a lot of people, they use a TENS machine for the pain. If your clinician recommends it, I very much recommend the NMES machine, which is the neuromuscular electrostimulation. It's very similar to a TENS machine, but instead of providing pain relief, it's supposed to stimulate your muscle to help it like start acting the way it should be. And I see such a big difference with mine.
Oh, that's great. Was that something that you just bought off Amazon or that your doctor gave you?
Yeah, so my PT was having me use it from the start of my sessions. At the end of every session for 10 minutes, we would do 10 minutes of having this NMES machine on me. You know, you stick the pads on to the muscle that you want it to function, and you move the muscle in the way that you want it to. So for me, I have an issue with my E version, which means moving my foot left to right, mostly left. So I would put it on the side of my calf, and as the waves are moving, I move my foot to the left. I move it against, like just like a chair or something like that. And you can actually buy this machine off of Amazon. I bought mine for $40. There are more expensive types out there, but I think as long as it gets to the right wavelength, and you will find that out at PT, you want to go as high as much. You want your muscle to be as stimulated to the point where you are slightly uncomfortable. But when you're slightly uncomfortable, it means it's working. So, especially, when you went numb. So, any feeling, I'll take it. But yeah, you can buy it off of Amazon. I'm sure you can get it prescribed to you from your medical team. It's up to you, but you just have to use it the correct way, which is why I would have a clinician show you first.
That's smart. Now, did you have any post-surgery tools that you used in your recovery that you think are essential?
So at the time, I was living with my boyfriend in a different apartment, and this apartment was actually, it used to be an old folks home, which means the toilet is very low, which means with someone for a back problem, that's not very fun. So I had a grabber tool that I would use to bring up the toilet lid, and I had no shame using a cane. No shame. I was like, I need the stability. That was probably one of the best tools, especially, my boyfriend went to work. I was working from home. We have two cats. So you have to be very careful of not tripping over and stability. The biggest tips I would give to people, I don't think you really need. I know a lot of people have they get the recliner chair. I personally didn't need that. I used a lumbar pillow to put in the back. Sleeping with a pillow between your legs, fantastic. That's the best hack out there. I had an ice pack machine, like a band around your waist, and that felt so good. But I think the best thing to do is just to prepare before your surgery. So what we did, we meal prepped. So everything was easily accessible, and I had them placed high enough where I wouldn't have to bend down. Keep up with the fiber. Anesthesia meds are going to make you constipated.
Yep.
It is what it is. Like, I just got my wisdom teeth out. Yeah, yep, not fun.
I created
Water.
on YouTube, I created a how to prepare for your microdiscectomy video, and I did like a walk through the house.
Yep,
And I suggested the meal prepping and keeping them at arm's length level in the
yep,
fridge. And I said to eat your fiber because
yep,
the pain meds and the anesthesia will
yep.
clog you right up.
Clean your house before. You don't want to come
Yeah.
home to a dirty house. I know
Yeah.
that's not the case for people who have an emergency
Yeah.
MD. But yeah, cleaning the house would be just because I'm the type of person where my physical living space is very tied to my mental living space. And
Hmm.
also take care of your mental health. I
Right.
know this is a physical issue, but your mental health is just as important as your
Hmm.
physical health.
Yeah. Did,
If you need to get the takeout because you don't want to cook that day or you don't like
yeah.
the meals that you prepped, do it.
Do it.
Treat
Brit-
yourself.
Oh, Brittany, I'm just, it sounds like you're doing very well. And I
I
appreciate you.
am.
I appreciate you so much being willing to come on and share your
Yeah.
story. I can't wait till you're back in volleyball.
Me too. My friends and I will go to like the parks in Philly. We'll just play like outdoor. And I'm just sitting down on my picnic blanket with my drink, with my food, just watching. But also watching them play. It's like, oh, I wish I could be there. And that deep, deep inside of me is like, I can do it. And I'm like,
You will.
and right now it's not my time, but it will
Mm-hmm.
be. And
Yeah.
also another thing is like many people have this surgery. Many athletes have this surgery.
Right.
So being from Philly, the Eagles, I think I think many of our members have gotten this surgery.
Oh, and the
So
Flyers too.
oh yeah, and
Yeah.
and they're yeah, and the Flyers especially.
Yeah.
If you can do that, I can do that.
I just have
And
to I have to catch the attention of some of these athletes that will be willing to be on my podcast.
I think it's like, and they go back quick.
Right. Well,
I
they also
forgot who
have
on the
lots of
Eagles.
money.
Like, yeah, someone on the Eagles went back after 9 months, and I was like, hey, if it works, it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, Brittany, I just want to say thank you for coming on the
Yeah.
show. If you are a listener and you have a positive story of recovery from a serious neck or back injury, head to bedbackbeyond.com and click share your story. I would love to include your voice on the show. Once again, Brittany, best of luck in your recovery and thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.